Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, this Black adjacent Des Moines, Iowa school superintendent was arrested over his questionable leadership status and some other type things. But you'll have some personnel that'll be like, oh my goodness, what are we talking about? Black adjacent type people? We need to come together. Black American people and Black folks and stuff like that. No divisiveness. Go to Hades. See, the thing about it, when the Trumpism second effect came to existence, right? Before that, how many numbers of Black adjacent hotter fleers had the nerve to try to talk crazy about Black Americans who have already helped build up the country before most Black adjacent fleers even set foot in America, right? On this situation. And now they think millions of Black Americans are so freaking stupid. Now they think, hey, Black Americans, you know what? You're my brothers and sisters. Go to, you know what? So the thing about, let me relay this over before I go ahead and get to the point of the story. I don't want to waste too many people's time on this. Is that when it came down to Black Americans, who are the most openest people ever in America, and they be like, hey, you know, Black adjacent type people, you know what, we need to come together because of this type of numbers of bad type people within certain parts of Panamanian culture and this hatred and things like this. You have some other people in Black adjacent like, oh my goodness, no, you know, we don't want to deal with y'all because we have, no, because y'all lazy and y'all talking about racism and stuff like that. Oh, you don't want to be around or stuff like that. No. But now Trumpism in office, they're like, hey, Black Americans, we need your help, right? But at first, Black adjacent people are doing like this. It's a funny thing, but it's not. So let me go ahead and share my screen to go ahead and start this up. It's going to be a real quick show on this situation. I think it's a very important show. Today is September the 27th, 2025. There is various dynamics in this situation as well. Which one I want to play first? Let me just go ahead and play one of the videos. Okay, here we go.
We are following developments out of Iowa, where the Des Moines Public Schools superintendent has been detained by federal immigration officials. CBS News' Lana Zach is tracking this story from Iowa City. She joins us now with more. Lana, great to see you. What all do we know about the superintendent? What are ICE officials saying about his arrest?
Meg, this is definitely a shock that Des Moines is still trying to come to terms with. And we saw the officials from Des Moines City Schools really invoke what they heard from Dr. Roberts' own teachings about empathy, about trying to withhold judgment. And they said that they still, while new information has come to light, that they're still reserving judgment until they are able to independently verify what we have heard from law enforcement officials. They say that they apprehended in a targeted action earlier today, Dr. Ian Roberts, who has been the superintendent of Des Moines schools since 2003. And they tried to stop him in his school vehicle. He fled law enforcement.
What? Wait a minute now. Remember when you hear some stories about some Black Americans, some happened because of Black pain and some bad seeds, and some of them have kind of ran off and stuff like that. The one applies to when some bad seeds trying to do bad seed racial profiling, and then some very few amount of Black Americans, especially males, like, oh, they want to get up out of there because they afraid for their lives. How many times you heard Black adjacent hotter, and obviously numbers of people within certain parts of Panamanian culture who are numbers of Black adjacent cosplaying hotters, they're gods, right? Oh my goodness, why don't Black Americans just follow the law? and stuff like that. Oh, I guess that don't apply when black adjacent cosplaying black Americans in this situation with this particular guy who, I don't go on all that, who is a black adjacent hotter and stuff like that. But keep that in mind, when he was stopped, he fled. You see the hypocrisy here.
Enforcement at that point, they later found the abandoned vehicle, and they found inside that vehicle a handgun, which was loaded, they said, along with cash and and some other items that they're looking at as part of their investigation. Cash and a gun, which was they found inside that vehicle, found the abandoned vehicle, and they found inside that vehicle a handgun, which was loaded, they said, along with cash and and some other items that they're looking at as part of their investigation. The reason why all of this is confounding people here is he was a beloved educator. He had become the superintendent of Des Moines schools back in 2003. He's
actually, they got that incorrect, by the way. Just wanted to clarify that, and I'm gonna read you in a second. So I don't know where they got the information. He did not start there in 2003 on that as a superintendent of the Des Moines public school system. He did not start in 2003. But look at this person right here. Look at the black adjacent. See, sometimes it's black adjacent hot. He sometimes a little difficult to see the black adjacent phenotype. Sometimes it's very easy, other times very easy. But the name part, see, this also is a very difficult situation. The name part, right? Because Ian, a lot of black Americans not going to be named Ian. Andres Roberts. That Roberts right there, that's a lot of black Americans named Roberts, right? So that will throw some people off. The phenotype of this black adjacent hotter, hey man, he looks like numbers of black Americans, good looking black Americans. Right? Not talking about the coups and sellouts. So this is also the ploy and agenda by certain numbers of black adjacent hotters when they can slot under the generic, some kind of general name part, right? They like that part. Or the phenotype don't quite do it a little bit on that. And many times, well, sometimes the accent, they able to hide the accent a little bit. Every so often it'll come out a little bit. But the minute you start talking a little bit more, they'll sit there and show you that this person black adjacent hotter, right? And I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters, right, that are not black Americans, but they are humble to know, okay, being in America, they are humble to say, wait a minute, we know that black Americans have helped build America, right? More than anybody else besides certain ones that put on mixed culture. So we're not going to show no disrespect to black Americans and stuff like that, because without black Americans, we wouldn't even be in America. Right now, credit to give to those some. That's the point of it. Some are humble. Many other black adjacent hotters, they are parasitic and they are dangerous because they will lie, they will cheat, they will scam, they will deflect, they will do whatever they can. Tribalism they have, be it certain sections of island tribalism, be it certain ones within certain parts of African tribalism, the one that applies to not numbers of good brothers and sisters, right? But they will do whatever they need to do to sit there and try to get over black Americans on that and then smile about it.
He's from Guyana. He had come over here legally on a student visa back in 1999. Come over here legally and three. He's from of Des Moines schools back in 2003. He's from Guyana. He had come over here legally on a student visa back in 1999, but that visa he overstayed.
Overstayed. Parents from Guyana. So however personnel fled. And again, I'm not talking about some of the good, beautiful Guyanese people. Some of the ones that are in America. Oh, credit given to the ones who are so humble, right? They know who they are, right? And they know there are some coups and sellouts in Guyana too that are over in America as well. They know. The credit given to some of the good ones on that. But I just want to show that real fast one on that before I get to this other particular this article I want to read, because let me try to hurry up a little bit on this. I don't want to keep your time and stuff like that. But I make this. Hold on, what's this one here? Okay, yeah. I want to get this point because on the article, on the video talks about he's from where parents fled from Guyana. Again, I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters in Guyana, so we're not going to play that on that. But the thing about it is, he fled when the enforcement people stopped and stuff like that. But how many times people be like, oh my goodness, when you hear certain types again, Black American males, I mean, extremely small amount, because again, so much Black pain going on for generations. And sometimes when they sit there and seeing some bad seeds stop them, and you don't know what's going to happen, especially you ain't done anything, right? Well, why don't you bail out? Go to too many darn Black Americans. They know they know what's going on and stuff like that. So it said Des Moines Public Schools Superintendent Ian Roberts detained by ICE agents. See, look at that face and stuff like that. It's hard to tell. See, you won't be able to tell for most people, right? That he's not a Black adjacent cosplaying Black American, right? He's a cosplaying Black adjacent one, right? You can't really tell on that situation. There are some ones who know, but most times you hear them talking like, oh, I can't really tell that, right? And that's where they love to sit there and get meanings within the Black Americanism and other people, because they are used as a pseudo buffer, because they want more Black adjacent holders to come to America to be put in political positions, be put in educational positions, being put in business positions, right? They want them in various type of positions because they know they don't like Black Americans overall, because these Black adjacent holders had to flee, right? The ones applies to, right? So they already having hatred for Black Americans, right? Because they had to flee themselves from people who look like them in their original homeland, who most of them don't give a dang about these fleers here, right? See how that game goes, right? But they'll smile in Black Americans' face and play the game. You're my brothers and sisters, and knowing they can't stand Black Americans, right? Because Black Americans don't flee, right? On this, so right here, Des Moines Public School. Make sure you can see that here. Okay, let me hurry up. Des Moines Public School Superintendent Ian Roberts was detained Friday morning by ICE. According to our public safety, Roberts was arrested after what? Fleeing. He's supposed to be all that, super educated, got his PhD and everything, right? But he fled. So where's all those Black adjacent fleers and stuff like that? Where they always trying to have a nerd talking about Black Americans and act like, we Black adjacent fleers and we so educated, but you so educated, but you couldn't do SHIT in your own homelands. Oh, see, they don't like when people see through that nonsense tactic, right? So he fled from ICE agents who initiated traffic stop. Why he flee? Why couldn't he sit there and just obey the law? Because he know he did something. It ain't as if he had generational ingrained Black pain, right? Where you don't trust certain types of enforcement people because some of them have certain questionable racial profiling ingrainedness, right? Because you kind of like, I don't know what they're gonna try to take my life or what, right? Especially again, you ain't really done nothing. And even sometimes, anyway, I'm going to all that. So you see already he fled ICE agents who initiated a traffic stop. This department of this personnel said Roberts did not have work authorization and was giving a final order of removal by an immigration judge in May of 2024. Keep that in mind when I show you this next article. The department of these people said Roberts, right? This Black adjacent fleer is supposed to be all of that, right? Cosplaying Black Americanness, did not have work authorization. It was given a final order of removal by an immigration judge in May of 2025. Keep that in mind. May 2024. Excuse me. A listing of detainees on the ICE website gives Guyana at the beautiful country of Guyana as Roberts' country of birth. Roberts was named superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools in 2023, but he had a final order removal by the immigration judge in May 2024. You see something going on with that. Somebody didn't do what they're supposed to do. But this is also one of the last things I want to talk about on this. He is the first black. He is the first black superintendent to lead the district, which is the largest in the state of Iowa. The district profile states he was born to immigrating parents from Guyana and grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Let me say this last part again. He is the first black superintendent to lead the district. And that part right there is the insult. And this is what keeps getting millions within American Blackism, with very few exceptions, to allow people to put Black Americans in some little generic, little nonsensical infantile box, as if Black Americans are not some unique culture. And Black Americans are a powerful, achieving culture that built this country up more than anybody else besides certain ones within the Panamese culture. And you got many of these Black adjacent cosplayers. They are latecomers, and they show up, right? Hey, what's going on? You see what they do, right? And this cosplaying Black adjacent Hodder, he was able to sit there and slide under the Black American banner, knowing he wasn't Black American. See, it's one thing when you are not a Black American, but you have skin and some blackness on that, but you don't try to cosplay that. Credit given to some of the ones who don't cosplay, but those are very small amount, right? So this particular deviantness of questionable leadership status, Black adjacent Hodder, who is supposed to be a superintendent of one of the largest school districts in Iowa, was a Black adjacent Hodder. See the game on that. And see the article I want to show real fast. Oh, let me hurry up. So the article I want to also show from the previous one, this I wanted to show here. Give me one moment here. Oh, here we go. So the previous article I showed, let me make sure my mute. Okay, so the previous article I showed was talking about how he was the first Black, basically superintendent. See how the game goes. And this is one of those things where Black Americans, way more, I'm not talking about some few amount, and I'm not talking about coons and sellouts, better get on the program and stop allowing people to put Black Americans in some little generic box, as if Black Americans didn't do a damn thing in America. When Black Americans have been in this country more than any other Black adjacent immigrating person ever. Don't even think about trying to type in, look up Black immigration demographics, right? Anyway, I don't go into all that. It's a whole different topic in itself. So crowd protests in downtown Des Moines at the Des Moines Public School Superintendent Dr. Black adjacent Hodder, Ian Roberts, was detained by ICE. See, Black Americans don't get detained by ICE because Black Americans are not immigrants whatsoever. People told this situation entity, they showed up for Dr. Roberts as well as for others who have been detained by ICE in the past. That is a very key point. People told this particular entity they showed up for Dr. Black adjacent Hodder, cosplaying Black Americans, Roberts, as well as for others who have been detained by ICE in the past. You're just going to look over that he had questionable leadership status, right? That's what they've done. But at the same time, I prefer my country need no ICE, right? That means just open borders, right? But these same little silly freaking people, pro border break illegal immigrant personnel, right? They better not go across. I bet they couldn't go to Guyana and not have the proper documentation. Huh? This other fool talking about education, not deportation, free Dr. Roberts, right? But you say, wait a minute, where's all the same conversation about freeing Black Americans who are in prison, who are in prison more than basically anybody else in general, in relating to, besides certain ones within the Palm-Based culture, but who are the person who have gotten exonerated the most from prison? Black Americans. So where's all these same these little fools right here not protesting that part, say, oh my goodness, we need more legalness to help free the innocent Black Americans. What about that? They quiet. They quiet, right? On this. So a large crowd of people came together in downtown Des Moines Friday after calling for Des Moines Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Ian Roberts to be released. Des Moines Public Schools confirmed that day that Superintendent Dr. Ian Roberts was detained by ICE. They're just going to pretend, don't pay attention to that part. He's detained by ICE. Don't pay attention to that part. At the time, DMP has said he had not confirmed any information to why Roberts is being detained. Let me hurry up here. Many people held signs denouncing ICE, right? Again, don't worry about border breaker illegal immigrant personnel. Don't worry about ones that are scamming. Don't worry about the ones that are a burden on the system. Don't worry about numbers of border breaker illegal immigrant women sitting there popping those kids like candy apples, right? Sitting there, on taxpayers' money. Don't worry about the free pregnancy care, free neonatal care. Don't you worry about that. Don't worry about how the numbers of border breaker illegal immigrant male like they're replacing various type jobs, stuff like that, sending multi-millions of billions of dollars back to the original country that they fled from, be it indirect border breaker illegal immigrant or direct border breaker illegal immigrant. Right? Don't you worry about that kind of part. Don't worry about numbers of the violent ones, right? Who are in America right now. Don't you worry about that, right? Just look over that part. Don't worry about the non-violent ones, but are sitting there still. They broke immigration laws that numbers of American citizens, I'm not talking about one that showed up recently, natural, I'm talking about the ones that's been here for centuries. I bet you they can't go across the borders or go across the same part, but they can go to Guyana and sit there again, break immigration laws, say, wait a minute now, and start trying to take over different jobs and being put in positions and political positions, stuff like that. I don't think so, right? So, and they're using these kids and stuff as pawns that they don't know no better, showing their support for Roberts and for him to be set free. Children, see that little pawn, using the pawns, kids, that's disgusting. And adults showed up and teachers took part, both from Des Moines public schools and some school districts and surrounding communities. I think it's the connection that he has with the kids and schools that people have seen. That's just, don't pay attention to him sitting there being a border breaker, or he became basically a questionable leadership status, right? Basically, he's illegal in the country. Don't pay attention to that, right? This person said that I think just speaks to the way he approaches his job. And then you found out he had a boom type of weapons. I'm not gonna say the word because sometimes the tricky words. He had a weapons charge also a few years ago. Oh, either they know it, and if they don't, most of them probably don't even know. Oh, they're gonna look over that too, right? The last part of this, the support didn't just stop on the sidewalk. People who were driving by honked their horns in support as they passed by. People told this particular entity they showed up for Roberts as well as for others who have been detained by ICE in the past. Let me repeat that last part. People told this particular entity they showed up for Roberts as well as for others who have been detained by ICE in the past. That is also the type of game. They're looking at it from a point of view of saying that, look, we've got to come together, right, as pro-border breaker, illegal immigrant type, we are pro-border breaker, illegal immigrant type of people, right? We have family members that we know like that, or we are on board with this kind of stuff regardless, because as long as it's not a Black American in there, right? Because we really don't want them in there anyway. So we are more open to Black adjacent hodders than Black Americans, right? See how the game goes. And the thing about it is, again, when you start talking to some of these Black adjacent hodders, saying, hey, man, hey, won't you come together with Black Americans, man? Because I mean, we've been here a long time, so we know these games and stuff going on. And what do some of these Black adjacent hires? What have they been doing all this time? Right, this is what they've been doing. Hold on for a second. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. That's freezing up on me. I won't worry about that. So the thing about it is, this is what they want people to do when they sit there and read about this story, right? Don't act like, don't pay attention to that, right? What do you mean by that? Give me a second. Let me sit there and show this. I'm almost finished too, by the way, on that. Oh, before I forget, I did also a couple of different shows on something similar to this. One of the ones I did to show was that this particular Black adjacent hider, for anyone that's interested, this is also inside the description, in the description part of it on this show, right? This was another Black adjacent hider. I almost forgot about this one. A Black adjacent hider, major transit center CEO, steps down again, questionable immigration status. This was in Atlanta. Let me read this again. This particular another Black adjacent hider, right? That people put into positions, and how many times they're fooling numbers of Black Americans, right? By the millions, with very few exceptions. A Black adjacent hider, major transit center CEO steps down, questionable immigration status. So he was a fleer too. Howard brought him over here, fleers. And he was in these positions and cosplaying Blacks and stuff like that, and doing, he's Black basically. And when it was appropriate for him to say, I am from this other particular part, then he'll use it. But overall, he would use that he's Black in a generic sense. On that, see how the game goes. So this is one other one I did on this situation to show these little games they keep playing. What happened to him? He fled. I think he was in Canada. I think he went to Canada or something. He came from Canada, but that's not where he's originally from. So he went to Canada, or his parents sure went from Canada. So they fled, or he fled over there or something. And he got on a position in Atlanta to be one of the head people of the MARTA system in Atlanta. For people who know about the MARTA system, the gigantic bus, transportation type system in Atlanta, he was put in that position, a Black adjacent hider. See, these are the little games they keep playing, and they know millions that within American Blackism don't know the game. Another video, another one I have, another podcast I did was this one on the Essence Festival. On that, right? That was started almost 50 some plus years ago. And at the apex of it, it was super on that situation. Essence Magazine and Essence Festival on that situation. Then almost 30 some darn years later, things dwindling, having them supremacist people, they don't like seeing anything successful within Black Americans. They don't like it. So the thing about Essence Magazine, there's higher sponsorships and higher advertising. They started to dry up. Supremacists brilliant because they behind all kind of stuff. And so you had a couple of different fleers. One was from Liberia, the other one's from Kenya. Again, I'm not talking about some of the good brothers and sisters from those places. So we're not going to play that game, because some of the good ones, they know already there is some fleers from those countries. They know some coups and sellouts from those countries. So we're not going to play that game. So these particular ones that this main one and one of his friends, I think his mom, anyway, I'm going all that. So one of the fleers, he's Black, and they did some other stuff with some other fleers where they got this big time hair care product situation. And who was their main product personnel? Black American women, right? Because that's the way they do, people doing stuff like that, right? So the thing, I make this point, and he and this other woman, she was from Kenya, she was like the CEO of the Essence Festival. And you had people from the Black adjacent hiders that was mad because those known as a Black American say, "Oh my goodness, you're trying to Africanize this Black. You're trying to Africanize the Essence Festival that y'all had nothing to freaking do with. Now you come as latecomers. Now you're trying to Africanize it, right? And you got some black adjacent hodders that should then show hate true feelings of hatred toward black Americans. Oh my goodness. Well, y'all should have sit there and kept it. I've already discussed that already, right? Advertising drying up, sponsorships drying up. Again, supremacists are very brilliant because they don't like anything dealing with black American success, or should I say coon versions. That if they say coons and sellouts, they don't like that. With very few exceptions that are succeeding in certain situations. And so the thing about it is, okay, it would have been cool if they doing a thing, what they're doing, these black adjacent ones, right? But they wanted to sit there and Africanize it, right? But who's the main clientele of the Essence Festival? Black American women. You see how that game goes, right? So I did a topic on that. Essence Festival attendance down, controlled by non-black, to my black adjacent hodders, but black adjacent hodders, right? They took control over it, right? And then, you know, some of the black adjacent hodders have the nerve to sit and try to talk down about black Americans. And many of them are latecomers, right? And they're giving all kind of resources and different things like that. Also, people who know that, knowing stuff like that. So this is another one for anybody that's interested. This is inside of the Real CP Show, my podcast. But this link is on the homepage for right now. But it's also it's a link inside of the description for anybody that's interested. This is actually a real good podcast. There's a lot of information on this one. So I think I got a couple of. Give me a second. What else? I think that might be it. I think it might be something else. You know what? Oh, yeah. Now, Des Moines Public School District, the largest school district in Iowa, is the Des Moines Public School District. Look at the demographics. 32% plus or minus Hispanics, which is very general, because the only thing that means somebody speaks Spanish, right? See, that's a whole different game itself, because what about this Afro-Hispanics? But it ain't gonna have any meaning over in America, let alone in Iowa. So 32%. White, 31%. So there is more Hispanics, which are gonna be probably Mexicans primarily, and ones that was mixed in, some of the main several ones of Hispanicism. They make up more students than white students in the Des Moines public school system. Black African Americans, this really needs to stop right here. There's not enough of the Black Americans that still don't understand this. African American, that needs to go, because you can have a couple of Chinese people. How many times this keep happening? Chinese, India. I mean, the list goes on, right? I'm not talking about numbers, good ones, but we're talking about the agenda of whatever other cultures. They can go to Africa, have some kids, unless some situation happen. Let's say they have some kids. That kid is a citizen of that country, depending on what part of Africa. I'm just giving an example of something. Come over to America, and they can call them African American. You see how that game goes, right? Nothing wrong with African ancestry. Nothing wrong with that. Along with Black natives, but primarily Black Americans. That's a very uniqueness on that situation. On that, so those people can have their own little caveat to let them know, hey, no, I am Guyanese. No, actually, don't want to say that. They say they tribes first, right? If you're in the beautiful various parts of Caribbean islands, right? They'll do Caribbean in general, but you better not sit there and just say Caribbean, leave it like that. No. We are of this particular Caribbean island, right? First, second, then we are Caribbean. See, Black Americans, they're supposed to say that they're American first, right? They're not supposed to have their own unique culture, instead of saying that they're a Black American first, right? Lineage based, going back to the 1800s at least. But regardless, saying African American, that is passe. You got right now in various parts of South Africa and some other countries in Africa, you got other cultures from China, from India, some other cultures. I'm just giving an example. How many of them now are considered Chinese? I mean, considered African in Africa? I make this point is because when I sit there and showed you earlier, that's in the article, how there are some people that will jump up and down that they wanted to support this person, Dr. Ian. Hold on, let me go back. They want to support this guy right here. this guy here, right, who had questionable leadership status, who, when the enforcement people stopped him, he fled, right? Right? But when some Black American males have said, oh man, they distrusted certain type of bad versions, or they like, I'm not quite sure what this person gonna do overall, because first of all, most Black Americans do not flee when they're stopped, right? But it's the propaganda to act like Black American males is be fleeing, right? See how the game goes. But then when you had this Black adjacent fleer right here and stuff like that, who became a superintendent of the largest public school district in Iowa, right? He's a flea. He became a questionable leadership status type person, and then he had a weapons charge. I'm not gonna say the word because sometimes the algorithm and trickery based words, but he had a weapons charge against him, right? And you got people that were sitting there protesting for him. What? See the game on that situation. Now, if that had been a Black American, not a cosplaying Black adjacent one, they'd be like, no, it's about our kids and we can't have that and everything. But since this guy is a Black adjacent hodder, his parents from Guyana, and I'm talking about some of the good Guyanese people. We're not gonna play that tactic. We're talking about this particular Flea version, who you look at the outside appearances, you really won't be able to tell anything if he's a Black adjacent hodder, and especially by his name too on that. See how they do? They infiltrate like that. Many times it's easy once they start talking, if they don't have a certain accent or a certain name, they start talking and stuff like that. You can know what kind of person they are. So I think one of the last things I'm gonna sit there and show is this particular other quick video. Make sure I go. Where'd that Mino at? But hold on. Is that it? That might be it. Remember once.
Developing story in Iowa right now where ICE agents detain the superintendent of the state's largest school district. According to ICE, Dr. Ian Roberts is in the U.S. on an expired student visa and was given a final order to leave from an immigration judge last year. He also has a expired student visa and was given a final order to leave from an immigration judge last year. Dr. Ian Roberts is in the U.S. on an expired student visa. Dr. Ian Roberts is in the U.S. on an expired student visa and was given a final order to leave from an immigration judge last year. He also has a weapons charge that dates back to 2020. He also has a weapons charge that dates back to 2020. He took off during a traffic stop in Des Moines this morning. He took off during a traffic stop in Des Moines this morning.
But how many times, if you hear anything about some kind of Black American male and he was stopped because he felt there was about to be some racial profiling from a bad seed, and it's blurred out as some kind of propaganda way, and oh my goodness, especially the Black adjacent hodders, and how many times they got this hatred for Black Americans because Black Americans don't flee, and certainly Black Americans don't commit the most crimes, but we know that's a whole different topic. But how many times, the small amount of times there has been some Black American males that say were stopped, and because of unfortunate so much Black pain in a type of centuries consistently non-broken racial profiling by bad seeds and stuff like that once applies to. So there are some Black American males that have been stopped. They probably start getting nervous because like, oh my goodness, man, because they're like, because I know I ain't done anything. So are they gonna try to, what are they gonna try to do, right? And some of them have ran off, right? And it's publicized. Oh my goodness, they've showed Black American men running and stuff like that. Right, you see how that goes, as if 99.998%, 99.899% of any Black male say that's ever been stopped, as if they've ran, and they have not. But when this particular Black adjacent fleer, he runs, right? You'd be like, wait, where's all them Black adjacent fleers, anti-American black ones at now? Where's all those same people at now? When one of their kind flees like this, those fleers kind of version, not some of the good brothers and sisters that are not black Americans. Those are very small amount that are good and stuff like that, because the system only allows a very small amount for them to go through the cracks in America. They primarily want only the coons and sellouts to come over to America, and they set them up with businesses and have them easily be able to go to, well, some of them going to college and stuff like that under black banner and stuff like that. Some other little categories. They set them up with different kind of little businesses and stuff like that. Oh, they don't want to talk about that because they're told don't talk too much about those kind of things, right? They put them in certain type politics and stuff like this, where they can sit there and control certain things, and anything dealing with reparations, they're like, no, I ain't got anything to do with that. But interesting how you got the black adjacent harders and fleers and certain ones, people within certain parts of Padami's culture, and etc. They don't have that old hatred saying, hey man, I ain't got anything to do with Native Americans. I don't want my taxpayers' money going to Native Americans, whatever that's supposed to mean, because you got $50, $2 and 50 cent Anglo Indians out there, the ones that getting reparations, and some of the same numbers of people within certain parts of Angloism and how the black adjacent harders, they don't say, well, my taxpayers is going to, I don't want my taxpayers going to them. You see how this game goes, and they know there's not enough black Americans to call out their BS, right? On that. So let me finish playing this.
Agents tracked him down and arrested him for possession of a loaded gun and a knife. Gun and a knife. Arrested him for possession of a loaded gun and a knife.
Now, the knife, you have to kind of watch that a little bit, because sometimes people get a little ridiculous. If it's a legal size knife, we don't want to talk about that, right? That's a whole different game in itself. As if a legal size knife, oh my goodness, people like, huh? But he had a loaded boom piece of equipment, and he wasn't even a citizen. Can't do that. But he's supposed to be this particular PhD doctor of one of the largest public school districts in Iowa, a black adjacent harder.
Next thing you know, I'm hearing, come out with your hands up. And next thing you know,
knife.
Next thing you know, I'm hearing, come out with your hands up. And next thing,
him for possession of a loaded gun, and arrested him for possession of a loaded gun and a knife.
Next thing you know, I'm hearing, come out with your hands up. And obviously, you know, being a single parent, that kind of shook me. This is usually a typically quiet neighborhood. But over the past probably 6 months, like, this is not the first occurrence that something like this has had happened.
And that was by numbers of people within that person's culture. Not black Americans, by the way. Because when you look at statistics of those areas, you know what? Let me sit there and share this. I think I'm about to hurry up and finish up. Let me see if I can find this. Because, you know, when you start hearing about certain criminality things, people love trying, the one that applies to, they love, you know what? I think I may have, hold on. Yeah, did I sit there? Facts and figures. No, that's okay. I took that one. No, it's okay. That is okay then on that one. I guess in closing, it is a type of insultingness. It is a type of insultingness, because this guy right here, this black adjacent harder, who was the superintendent of the largest public school district in Des Moines, Des Moines too, Iowa, on that situation, this black adjacent harder. And you had people that were protesting because he got arrested, because he had a loaded boom piece of equipment in his vehicle, and he's not even a citizen. He was hired, I think it said 2003, to be the superintendent, but either unbeknownst, direct or indirect, he had a order of removal in 2024. Yes, this black Jason Hodder had a order of removal by ICE for 2024, but he was hired in 2023. You said it goes. This black Jason Hodder. And you had people protesting for him. And one of the articles I read you where they was like, not just only they were protesting sidewalk for him, but it's also for other people who had also, numbers of them who had people that had been detained by ICE. If this was a black American and he was a superintendent, school superintendent of the largest school district and over, and they found out that he had a loaded boom boom piece of equipment that he cannot bring on campus. Just give an example. And he fled when he was stopped by enforcement, because you know that little stereotypical thing where they think that black Americans, you know, some that get stopped, they just run, right? And 99.9998999% of the time, you know, say some black Americans got stopped, do not run, right? But you see, they got to try to act like that's what most black Americans do, males do, right? The point I'm making, if this was a black American male that did that, with this guy, this black adjacent Hodder, Fleer, if black American male did that, there will be no protest for that black American male superintendent of the largest school district in Iowa. They were like, you know what, we don't need that kind of we don't need that kind of showcasing. This is about the kids. You know, you had a loaded boom boom piece of equipment and stuff like that in your car on the campus. We don't need that to happen, right? We don't need that. Nope. But since this guy's a black adjacent Hodder, Fleer, right? And he was supposed to he had an order of removal in 2024, right? And now that Trumpism in his second office, now you got all these various type of black adjacent Hodders and Fleer, the ones applies to, right? Now they try to be like, hey, black Americans, can you gonna help us out now? Right? Let me show you what numbers of them have been doing when black Americans were like, you know what? Hey, why don't you come get together with black Americans and let's have a discussion about how can we sit there and come together a little bit more and stuff like that. Nope. Many 98.999% of these black adjacent Hodders and Fleers, the ones applies to, when how many of them, when black Americans like, hey, you know what, we need to come together and get together and talk about some different things. We can understand each other and fight against this racial racism and stuff like that. This is what many of those black adjacent Hodders will be doing. Yes, this is what they be doing. But now, they think black Americans are so stupid that they think black Americans are just supposed to sit back and ignore all this time that none of these black adjacent Hodders have been sitting there ignoring what's been going on with black Americans, right? Because it had nothing to do with them directly, right? These black adjacent Hodders. Now that ICE has turned numbers of them up, right? Removing parents, children, whatever it is, relatives, whatever it is, etc. Now they want black Americans to be sitting there like, hey, you know, let's get together, black Americans. Or they want black Americans now to be helping out, please. Because in 2028, when Trump is, when his second term is finished because he can't go for a third term, and then however people decide to put whoever in office, wherever it is, watch how many of things will be turned back around and stuff like that, right? Because previous 4 years, there were record-breaking border-breaking illegal immigrant numbers. There were border-breaking illegal immigrant record-breaking numbers. There were still foreign immigration record-breaking numbers, chain migration record-breaking numbers. For people who don't know chain migration, this is another game that people keep playing, right? Especially the numbers of Black adjacent hires and some of these other different people, right? When they come over here and whatever they regurgitate, wherever it is, and they get their little legal documentation, some of them on that, and they're able to sit there and sponsor however personnel back in their homeland, and that person comes over here, and then that person sponsors somebody else. See how that game goes. It's like border break illegal immigrants. They pop up them kids left and right, like Ken Apples off the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which is the insult toward numbers of Black Americans who have sit there and fought for this country for several centuries on that. But you got people that show up overnight in this country, symbolically, indirectly, and all of a sudden they pop up these kids, again, automatic citizenship. So that border break illegal immigrant woman or that man, if he's around wherever it is, they figure out how to ways, or even a certain type of immigration type personnel who allow a certain piece of legal status for a piece. They sit there and have some kids wherever it is, 14 members of the Constitution, and they also use those kids as pawns to sit there and do chain migration of some of the other relatives from other countries, from their own original countries to come over to America, right? See how the game goes. And they know that millions within American Blackness do not know the game, because it also includes Black adjacent hires, the ones that apply to, which is going to be the majority, because very few exceptions of Black, non-Black Americans, the ones that have Black skin, some of the good ones, those are very small, because the system would not allow a majority of good Black skin, non-Black Americans to come over to this country. They only want coons and sellouts, and ones that have hatred, sub-hatred, indirect or direct hatred for Black Americans, but will utilize the generic term Black when it's convenient for them. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.